It's not always easy to distinguish, when looking at somebody, an adult from a child. There are those who have a number of years behind them who still have not quite matured and reached that age. And there are those who seem wise beyond their years, having aged only slightly. There's an old joke that a grown-up is someone who is not happy to hear that the phone is for them. That is to say, it is the inevitability of responsibility which makes you grown up. The innocence of childhood phone calls, or perhaps we should say texts in this day and age, long gone by the time you reach adulthood. Childhood is about freedom. Maybe not all the time, as school approaches and chores are to be done, but generally, to be a child means that you're free from responsibility and worries that we think about as filling our days as adults. This is what it means to be a child, to see the world in simple terms. And I'd like to offer us tonight a slightly different definition, perhaps a Jewish definition of what it means to be an adult, a grown-up. A grown-up is someone who understands that the things that we care most deeply about and the people that we care most passionately for are still broken and flawed, and that the world is complex and it can be difficult to understand if you try to force it into simple terms. As children, for example, we think of our parents as perfect. But each of us become disillusioned at some point. Think of King David in the Bible. He carries his brokenness right next to his gifts. He is as flawed as they come, and yet he was a hero to our people. This week in Torah, we read of Moses, another great example. For all of his sins, not even allowed to enter the promised land. And yet, he is Moshe Rabbeinu. He is our great and venerable teacher, the very model of leadership to our tradition. So today is July 4th, and we do celebrate the United States. But I would ask us to consider what it means to celebrate the United States as grown-ups, and differently than we did when we were children. When I was a child, it wasn't taught what happened to the Native Americans when the Europeans came. We didn't learn about the deliberate spread of disease, the broken treaties, the massacres. Because our teachers wanted us to admire America and think the best of it. We learned about slavery, but perhaps not in the painful, gory, cruel details of reality. We didn't learn, for example, that there were other countries that put an end to slavery long before us and without a civil war, because we were supposed to think that America was the best. We were supposed to worship America, and we did. I didn't learn as a child that there were still Jim Crow laws in existence into the 1960s, because we were to think that our country was the last great hope for humanity. We were afraid that as adults, if we knew the truth, that we would lose that sense of patriotism and would be unable to worship. But you may be aware that the greatest of our leaders did not see this country in black and white. They did not look at this society that they were building as children. They looked at it as adults. They understood that a flawed country can still be a great country, that a place which has to grow and has space to grow is a place which is alive. I recently came across a text that I wanted to share with you. It's from July 4th of 1852, when one of the greatest orators of the time, Frederick Douglass, spoke these words. He said, "The sunlight that brought light and healing to you has brought stripes and death to me. The 4th of July is yours, not mine. You may rejoice, but I must mourn. To drag a man in fetters into the grand illuminated temple of liberty, to call upon him to join in joyous anthem, wherein lies human mockery and sacrilegious irony. Do you mean, citizens, to mock me by asking me to speak?" Now you can understand Douglass's dismay when we understand how many of his African American brothers and sisters were enslaved in the country in which he was speaking. But that wasn't the end of his speech. And he continued, "Fellow citizens, I am not wanting in respect for the fathers of this republic. The signers of the Declaration of Independence were brave men. They were great men, too. It doesn't often happen to a nation to raise at one time a number of truly great men. And we know who he's talking about. Franklin and Jefferson, Washington, Adams, Hamilton." He continued, "He who will intelligently lay down his life for his country is a man whom it is not in human nature to despise. Your fathers staked their lives, their fortunes, their sacred honor on the cause of their sacred country." 1852. Douglass, a former slave, and he continued, "They were peacemen, but they preferred revolution to peaceful submission to bondage. They were quiet men, but they did not shrink from agitating against oppression. They showed forbearance, but they knew its limits. They believed in order, but not in the order of tyranny. With them, nothing was settled that was not right. With them, justice, liberty, and humanity were final, not slavery and oppression. You may well cherish the memory of such men. They were great in their day and in their generation." How unlike the politicians of the hour, he said. Their statesmanship looked beyond the passing moment and stretched away in strength, looking to the distant future. They seized upon eternal principles and set a glorious example in their defense. Now, this is an African American talking in 1852 about the very people who designed the system that enslaved him and so many others. But he sees their greatnesses just as he sees their flaws. He understands their aspiration, even as he feels it sometimes as affliction. He is not a child. What pains us about so much of the debate in America today is that it is being conducted by children. By people, as Rabbi David Wolpe names them, who either can admit no flaw or can admit no virtue. Does America have things to be ashamed of? Of course, America has things to be ashamed of, and anyone who denies that is a child. Travel the world, listen to what America has done in various countries, and some of it will make you ashamed. Think about the treatment of African Americans for hundreds of years in this country, and you must be ashamed. But if all you feel is shame, You're a child. Travel the world and listen to how America has acted in other countries and feel proud. Think of the struggles the people of this nation have gone through for liberty and freedom and to overturn tyranny, both without and within. You must be proud. I think this is a deeply flawed country. And I also think that it is the greatest nation on earth. And I don't find those two propositions incompatible with one another. I know as a Jew, if you're Jewish and you're not grateful to the United States of America, you don't know your history. Are there things that America has to be ashamed about with regard to the Jewish people, to what we didn't and could have done to save more Jews in the Second World War? Absolutely. It is never easy and it is never simple. People are complicated and they're flawed. We could have done more. But I also know that those are the words of a Jew on the Statue of Liberty, and that so many have looked upon that statue and known for the first time sometimes that they have found a place they could call home. I know that this country has stood time and time again with the true homeland of the Jewish people, with the state of Israel, and that there would be no state of Israel were there not a United States of America. I know that this country is greater than its accomplishments and that its accomplishments are extraordinary. That we have established the finest centers of learning. We have brought minorities from all over the world to create this tremendous society, this salad of people who together are making their way forward. You may like or be disappointed by, venerate or execrate this leader or that leader, or this administration or that administration. But one of the things that makes America America is that the government is never the people. The people are the people. We have seen leaders come and go. We have seen problems come and go. And we have endured and flourished in ways that were unimaginable to the first founders of our nation. That was unimaginable even to Benjamin Franklin, who famously, as he left the Constitutional Convention, was asked by a woman, "What do we have, Mr. Franklin?" He said, "We have a republic, madam, if we can keep it." And we've kept it through wars, through strife, through every difficulty. And we are called upon to sympathize and to understand the plight of those who do not find America the America that they want it to be. But also to remind ourselves of the America that is. A place unprecedented in history. And so I end with one other orator, a speaker whose stature is at least as equal to that of Frederick Douglass. That is Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. In his famous letter from the Birmingham jail, he writes as follows: "We will reach the goal of freedom in Birmingham and all over the nation, because the goal of America is freedom. Abused and scorned though we may be, our destiny is tied up with America's destiny." So to all of us showered with the blessing of this free and good and great nation, if it is not yet what you wish it to be, that is understood. And the answer that we give as people, as adults, who understand that everything is fractured and flawed and broken, is that it is also not black and white. Let us work together to continue to fulfill the promise of this good and great land, so that together we may declare that God indeed blesses America.